Raider Nation. Big decisions are happening inside the halls of Las Vegas. A key piece of the offense is firmly on the future radar. New faces are gaining ground while other ideas are popping up that honestly give you a bad chill. In the middle of all this, a situation involving one of the faces of the franchise hits directly at those who wear silver and black. And that final story, that one is going to land hard on anyone who lives and breathes Raiders football every single day. But before we open up every detail, stick with me for a second. Subscribe to the channel and drop your voice in the comments like it is the stands on game day. This is where the fans speak and every opinion matters. Here is the deal. The Raiders head coaching search just hit one of those sharp turns. And I'm not talking about a pretty list put together for show. This is the kind of turn that flips a fan's mood in 5 minutes. You blink, another meeting is scheduled, then it gets canceled, then it is back on. And everyone is left asking, what is the real plan here? I swear sometimes it feels like the NFL was designed to test patience. Over the last few days, the name heating back up is Mike McDaniel. Relax, this is not an announcement and nothing is locked in. But the noise grew louder because of one very specific detail. He had a meeting scheduled with Buffalo, and from what came out, that meeting never even happened. That shifts the entire board. When someone pulls the brakes like that, either a more interesting door is open or they did not like where the road was heading. And that is where fans in silver and black start raising an eyebrow. Diana Rossini from The Athletic reported that McDaniel is still in the mix for the head coach job in Las Vegas, but there is a massive shadow hanging over it. If he takes an offensive coordinator role, the expectation is that it would be with the Chargers. So now you have a real tug of war. On one side is the chance to run an entire team. On the other side is the chance to write your own story. On the other side is a more stable situation. It comes with a proven quarterback. What do I think? The idea of McDaniel with the Raiders is tempting because he brings a modern offensive mind and credibility. More than that, he would have room to build things his way. This is not about inheriting a perfect roster. It is about taking a project and getting your hands dirty. That could be gold if the franchise truly buys into the vision. And we all know that with the number 1 overall pick coming, the offense will need someone who can protect, simplify, and accelerate a young quarterback's development. But let us not pretend this is easy. The Chargers offer a safer floor. And when a coach looks across the room and sees Justin Herbert, the conversation changes. In Las Vegas, the ceiling is high, but the ground is still uneven. That is where I want to see if the front office can sell the dream without selling smoke. There is another layer too. Even if McDaniel does not come, he still affects the Raiders. If he ends up with the Chargers, that is another sharp offensive mind inside the division. Now the challenge doubles. You are not just picking your guy, you are trying to keep a rival from getting stronger, and honestly, that makes me nervous. I get the feeling the Raiders still have one card left to play. Convince him that this is where he becomes the face of a reboot and that the tools will be there. Offensive line help, the right pieces, real autonomy. If promises are made and not kept, it just becomes another chapter of frustration. And this is the kind of raw fan perspective you only get from someone who lives the team without any polish. Let me know in the comments. Would you bet on this profile right now? And stay with it because the next story shows just how wild this interview carousel is getting. Look at how this coaching search is turning into a full marathon. New names keep jumping into the conversation, and these are not courtesy interviews. Real heavy hitters are involved, and there are powerful hands influencing the direction. Without naming him right away, think about a former head coach who understands offense. Think about someone who has carried teams before. Think about someone with a long-standing connection with a very famous minority owner. Yes, that guy is Brian Daboll. Reports say he interviewed with the Raiders while also being linked to other openings around the league. To me, that shows two things. First, Las Vegas is genuinely widening the search. Second, the league still sees real weight in that seat even after a 3-14 season. Then comes the detail that changes the color of everything. Diana Rossini from The Athletic pointed out Daboll's long history with Tom Brady dating back to New England. I will be honest, just hearing that makes you picture the room. Direct conversation, eye to eye, football talk with no excuses, and it makes you wonder if a clear command structure is finally possible. On the Raiders side, John Spytek also spoke about the internal situation after Pete Carroll's departure. He hinted that the next head coach would likely build his own staff. In fan terms, that means a lot of the current assistants could be gone. And frankly, that makes sense. If you are restarting, do it the right way. But it also cranks up the pressure on the decision, because you are not just hiring a coach. you are hiring an entire vision. At the same time, there was a smaller but symbolic development. 49ers offensive coordinator Clay Kubiak pulled his name out of head coaching consideration. The Raiders and Steelers had requested interviews, and he chose to stay with Kyle Shanahan. That creates mixed feelings. On one hand, you lose a young and promising option. On the other, it shows not everyone wants to step into chaos and instant pressure. And look at how fast the league moves. Shortly after that, the Steelers officially hired Mike McCarthy. Chairs are filling up, and when chairs disappear, the remaining names get more expensive. That hits the Raiders directly. If you wait too long, the paths start closing. And fans in silver and black have seen this movie end badly before. What I like about the growing list is the contrast in profiles. A command-style leader like Dabble, a scheme architect like Kubiak, who is no longer available, and Brady sitting there influencing the weight of the call. But now comes the burning question. Is this long search smart patience, or is it hesitation? Hold on to that thought, because the next story goes straight at something the Raiders cannot afford to lose. Some ideas pop up every offseason, and you can feel the trap immediately. They sound bold, they sound aggressive, but deep down, they are shortcuts that demand an insane price. And with the Raiders, we know exactly how bad shortcuts can hurt. One idea floating around involves Lamar Jackson, and that alone explains why the topic explodes. An NFL talent evaluator told Jeremy Fowler from ESPN that he could imagine a shocking move. The Raiders sending the number 1 overall pick and Max Crosby to land Lamar. That is the kind of thing that turns into instant bar debate, because a quarterback changes everything. But there is a catch the size of Allegiant Stadium. To me, going down that road is asking to split the team in half. You are not just trading assets, you are trading identity. Crosby is the heart of the defense. He represents the controlled fury of this team, and the number 1 pick is your chance to start a new cycle with flexibility and control. If you throw that away, you are locked into an immediate fix. And what about the rest of the roster? Who carries it? Lincoln Kennedy spoke very clearly on this. A legend, a respected voice, and he said what a lot of us feel. Lamar has taken a ton of punishment over his career. He is electric when healthy, but you would be paying an enormous price. And if his body starts pushing back, you are left without the number 1 pick and without Crosby. Then you are trying to build a competitive team with your hands tied. That is not an all-in move. That is roulette. I know some fans say it fixes the quarterback problem right now. And yes, it does, but it fixes it the wrong way, because the Raiders' problem is not just the quarterback. It is protection. It is a plan. It is consistency. It is stopping the reset every 2 years. When you add an expensive quarterback and remove your best defender, pressure hits everyone. You become a team dependent on weekly miracles. Now picture that inside the division. The Chiefs and Chargers punish every mistake. If you weaken the defense, you are asking for shootouts every week, and that is not sustainable. Just talking about it already makes my stomach turn. I understand the appeal. Lamar is elite when everything clicks, but the Raiders have a smarter path on the table, and it starts by not torching the future for headlines. Anyone who lives and breathes Raiders football has suffered enough from splash moves that never turn into wins on Sunday. Let me know in the comments if you think this trade makes sense in any scenario. And stay until the end, because there is a story coming that hits right inside the locker room. Now hang on, because the next chapter is about the kid who could become the face of the reset in Las Vegas. This week delivered an image that brings hope and fear at the same time. Hope because there is finally a young winner tied to the Raiders. Fear because pressure in Las Vegas swallows people whole, and I am not exaggerating. Without naming him immediately, we are talking about the quarterback who just finished a perfect college season. He led his team in a massive game, won it in the details, and had that 4th down run near the goal line that became the defining moment of a championship. Now he has declared for the draft, and with the number 1 pick in hand, the Raiders have become the most talked about destination. That player is Fernando Mendoza. Mendoza spoke about the possibility of landing in Las Vegas during an appearance on the Today Show, and his tone was exactly what you want from a prospect. Grounded, humble, no talk about choosing his destination. He said it would be a blessing to play anywhere. And when asked about the Raiders, he praised the culture, the coaching, and even the ownership group. Is it standard talk? Maybe. But it also shows maturity, and that matters. Because if we are being honest, the Raiders environment can be great when things are aligned. When they are not, it becomes noise. And I look at Mendoza and think, I hope they put him in a fair situation. Offensive line help is mandatory. A simple offensive plan early on is mandatory. And a head coach who does not change philosophy every loss is mandatory too. Then there is another massive voice in this story. Tom Brady was at the championship game and later spoke about Mendoza on Colin Cowherd's The Herd. Brady praised the season, the leadership, and especially how the kid speaks. He said he always judged quarterbacks by posture and how they answer questions. In his view, Mendoza is mature and has a bright future. When someone like Brady says that, you pay attention. But this is where fans in silver and black have to stay grounded. Brady might like the kid might be the pick, but that alone does not win games. The franchise has to prove it learned something. The 2026 NFL Draft starts on April 23rd, 2026. Until then, Las Vegas has to hire the right head coach, align the staff, build a structure where this quarterback can breathe. I like Mendoza's approach because he does not shy away from the challenge. He talks like someone who understands the NFL is work, hard work. And I am already imagining his first step onto the Allegiant field. The building will shake. The next story ties this future to a present that still hurts. It involves the player who best represents the fighting soul of this team. There is something I cannot ignore when I look at this moment for the Raiders. This is not just about a new head coach and a future quarterback. It is about how you treat the players who have carried the load for years. And there is one name that cannot be pushed aside. Without dropping it immediately, here is the point. The Raiders have to learn how to take care of their cornerstone. The comparison being made is with what the Bills are doing after another playoff disappointment. They fired Sean McDermott, and according to reports, Josh Allen will have a major voice in selecting the next head coach. That makes sense. The team revolves around him. You want him fully invested in the vision. Then you look at Las Vegas and ask, why not do something similar with the biggest star on defense? Yes, we are talking about Max Crosby. The idea is simple. Give him star treatment. Bring him to the table. Have real conversations. Show him the plan. Because right now, the perception is the opposite. There was tension when the team decided to shut Crosby down for the final 2 games of the 2025 season. Officially, it was to protect his health. In reality, it also helped secure the worst record and the #1 overall pick. It worked on paper, but it messed with his mindset, and I get it. Competitors hate being shut down, especially when they are the symbol of the fight. What hurts even more is hearing Crosby himself say he has not talked with the front office in recent weeks. He said he has been focused on his family and getting healthy. To me, that sounds like distance, not an open fight, but a silence that eats away. Crosby is not just another player. He is the face of the Shield on the field. He plays with controlled rage. He lifts the stadium when the offense is stuck. And I will say this clearly. If the Raiders want to truly turn the page, they have to rebuild trust inside the locker room. You do not do that with polished social media posts. You do it with real conversations and real respect. Giving Crosby a voice in the head coaching process would go a long way. Not to let him run things, but to make him feel included. To make it clear the plan is not tank now and figure it out later. The plan is to win, and to win the right way. I also think about the message it sends to the rest of the roster. If the defensive leader is treated like an afterthought, what does that say to everyone else? Fans in silver and black want pride. They want identity. And Crosby is that identity. If you do not take care of him now, the risk of losing that pillar grows, and then you are starting a young quarterback's era without a defensive anchor. That would be a brutal mistake. This all leads to a bigger truth. You cannot dream about a bright future while letting the present crack apart, and that is the mindset we need to tie everything together today. I am going to say something that hits hard. Right now, the Raiders are standing at an identity crossroads. The head coaching search is loud and crowded, with Mike McDaniel and Brian Daboll circling the conversation. Every choice there shapes how the offense will be built for Fernando Mendoza. At the same time, wild trade ideas involving Lamar Jackson threaten to blow up the future. And in the middle of it all is what bothers me the most: how the team is handling Max Crosby. If Las Vegas gets this moment right, the ceiling is incredibly high. If they get it wrong, it becomes another cycle of frustration that no one can stomach. I still believe because stubborn belief is part of being a fan. But respect for the Shield and for the players who carry it every Sunday is non-negotiable. Drop your thoughts in the comments. This space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Raiders football. I want to know exactly where you stand on all of this.